masters. Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Don't be so foolish, you oaf. I knew Suckface would be stupid enough to surface again.
Sir, it's Tsar, and they love him because he's a hero.
Well, every hero needs a villain.
Hey guys, this is TopWoog here, reviewing a Landis 3 Summon Druid Rathma kill. This is pretty cool actually. So we're just getting into the initial phase here. So Landis decided to do Rathma with Summon Druid, which we saw in D-Clone actually worked quite well at a pretty reasonable budget, to be honest. And he wanted to do Rathma with it as well. I understand he takes bear form for the large HP, and he's using Athena's Wrath, I believe, for the summon skills, but also to give him a maul damage ability, because it's a scythe that does quite a bit of damage, and he needs that for the Rathma phases, I believe. So you see, he's purely summons here, so he's got all of his wolves and bears from the Druid. So the difficult part with the summoners in these fights is that they actually target the spires, which have infinite HP. So you really have to try to focus men down as much as you can, but you can't really telestomp in bear form. So that's kind of the issues we see. But we saw the damage was actually quite good to get to the first form. As he's going around, you can see the damage on the golems is a bit low, but it seems to be reasonable. So there's a few things at this point actually. You can see he doesn't clear all the golems, or he might, yeah, he doesn't clear them, it looks like. Well, it's close. No, it looks like he didn't. So if you don't clear the golems, he does heal, but the heal actually isn't that crazy. So there is a lot of viable strategies right now where you don't even bother clearing the golems. So we can see he's in the Poison Creeper phase, and that's the one ability of the antidote, so no issues there. And his damage was enough to push him right into the next Golem phase. So to be honest, personally, I think I would just avoid the Golems here in this Summoner build, because your single target on Mendeln is actually really good, but you're just taking damage here for no reason. So I think it would be better just to stay on the outside of the map and just avoid the spires and poison. And use really no potions, and then just burst him down again after the golem phase. It'll take, you know, you have to get through his health again, but he doesn't recast any phases once he heals up. So you're not getting any additional phases this way, you're just attacking him a little bit longer. But fighting Mendeln is kind of the safer portion. The other thing to note for Mendeln fight is the cold spires, only the ones that you're close to within a range are actually activated to shoot you, and they work off a timer, so you can actually stay up here, let's say, on the north side, and he's only getting attacked by these two spires, and once he moves over here, he aggroed this spire, and now he's got the bottom two. He moved a little bit to the left that aggroed that top left one, but you can actually stay far enough away on one side and only get two spires to aggro you. Also, if you time it, when you go into the center, you can off-sync them so that not all four attack at the same time. You see it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 here. Earlier in the fight, he had four of them shooting at the same time. So there's a way to kind of time that a little bit so that you don't have four coming out at once, because that's one of the ways you can die. The only other way you can die is, is a Sludge Nova, which we've seen. He's staying quite close to Mendeln. And so he's kind of avoiding that AoE nuke. We'll probably see that come out again after these golem phases. But it seems that Landis is pretty committed just to kill the 1 to 2 golems. He's not really worried about all of them. That's also okay. I think I would avoid them all, but you could try to kill 1 or 2 so that you don't get quite the same heal. It's not really confirmed how much it heals per golem. It seems pretty inconsistent. I haven't had much of an issue if I leave them all up before. So his PLR is actually pretty good, it seems. So he has no real. So there's a Sludge Nova there. And he's within range, so he's never really taking damage. You see, he pretty much has these spires coming 2 at a time, but it's really not that big of a problem. Well, phase 1 was actually pretty good. He probably had quite a few pots. Okay, we can see he is using Athena's for that 2-hander. So we'll probably see that come into action in a second here. So these middle phases aren't too interesting, really. It's just pot collecting. The interesting thing about the Summon Druid is that the damage is actually pretty good. I've tried this on, Summon Necro before, and it's not the same, we'll say. But also the Druid allows him to have, 4.5k life, as we see, which is kind of really, really good for this fight. It allows you to get away with some extra shots from the spires, but also in this next fight with Rathma it helps. But the biggest thing is the Sludge Novas, because those Sludge Novas with 90 poison res, on a non, shotgun hit, they're doing like 1.9k damage, I believe it is. And if you get a shotgun hit with 2 of them, you're getting in the 2.6k I've seen people get one shot at. So it's pretty scary on any character with less than 3. Less than 3,000 life. It's definitely doable. We do it at 2.5 and lower, but if you can afford to be higher, it's obviously better. So he's about to jump into the Rathma fight here in a second, I guess. And I guess the only issue that a lot of druids have had is with the cages, because actually the Rathma part itself is a bit easier. It's kind of like with necros with your revives. The more enemies you have, or summons you have up, the more aggro they're taking, and you see that Rathma hasn't even fired a shot at Landis yet. So that's kind of the benefit of these summon builds over a single character in the fight. And the single target with Ravens actually seems to be quite good. So here we can see the Void Knights. He's got to clear them all out because Rathma is immune during this phase. Also, you can see here the cages are coming out on the summons, which is really beneficial, because that's kind of one of the scary parts, is when you get caged and all these knights come out at once. But it seems that he's able just to spawn the dire wolves and bears right on top of the Void Knights, and they seem to aggro down pretty well. I haven't seen him into a cage yet so far to see how this works. Conjuring Soul on the left, these skeletons, you want to kill them as soon as possible. Their Fissure damage is probably the most dangerous thing in this fight, aside from the Sludge Nova. So we see he noticed it now when he's kind of summoning over there. It's a bit dangerous with the Void. He's got 3 Void Knights right on top of it. So you'd probably want to be a bit careful about how you go over there, but it seems that his summons just focus it down anyway without even having to be too close. You don't really have much choice what your summons do, aside from proximity of where you summon them to. But it seems that they have pretty good AI there to kind of take it down, so that was quite nice. But if you compare this to a fight with a melee character, this is probably the easiest phase you'll have for Necros or Druids, purely because you're basically not taking any damage. Like the Void Knights you can see here, they're attacking all the summons. Rathma shooting his spears at the summons. The scary thing is this fissure, because you can see the fissures on the ground. There's 2 of them, and they are kind of covering the whole map because they're just targeting the summon. So you could walk over that and take excessive amount of damage and die. That's mostly where people die in this phase. You can see here how quickly his health dropped. Okay, there, he mauled through that. So that's the thing. If you don't have a good 2-hander or high damage weapon in bear form, you don't have a way to get out of the cage, because as the summons don't, as I said, you can't force him to aggro something. So even if he summons them on top of the cage, it's kind of RNG if they're going to attack that cage fast enough. So that's kind of probably the change he had to make, I think. So it's actually really good. I'm pretty impressed with that choice for that item. It's kind of just makes sense. I don't know Druids enough if you can get away with Beast. I feel like having Beast is enough damage to break a cage, and having Fanaticism on your summons is actually really nice. So I don't know Bear form enough if he can get away with a Beast and a shield, or if he has to use a two-hander with this. But I personally would be interested to try Beast. You'll lose, I think, 5 skills from that two-hander, maybe a little bit more. So it'll depend if he can use a shield or not. Because if he can use a shield, he can make up a lot of that. Well, basically 3 of those skills. So that would be interesting to know, but the additional Fanaticism would help. Okay, the tricky part of phase 3 is we want to take down Mendel first, but as you can see, they stack on top of each other and they split, so he did a really good job here of getting some lucky and getting them split. But right now he's attacking both, and we see that he spawned both the Void Knights and the Poison Creeper phase. So this is kind of the most dangerous thing that could happen to you, because he has all these Void Knights and Mendel casting poison, while Rathma's shooting at him, and there's a couple of Fisher guys down. So this is where having 4k life is quite important. He was pretty close to getting hit by that sludge. He wouldn't have died though with his health, but that's the scary thing, is that you can just get caged or focusing a Void Knight, and all of a sudden that sludge comes out and you're dead. That's kind of where most people are dying on this fight. So you see here he's kind of opting just to focus Mendel down and more or less avoiding the Void Knights, just letting the summons take them as needed, which I think is probably the right idea. Oh yeah, you can see his health even at 4k is dropping quickly. 2 Conjuring Souls, plus the poison, plus the Void Knights I don't envy this position. To be honest, I think the only thing you can do is probably focus the Conjuring Souls first, and then I would agree with him to try to focus down Mendel and kind of leave the Void Knights, because even if you take down those Void Knights, when you try to fight Mendel, he's going to face Rathma again, most likely, because of the AoE. And right now, the Void Knights are already out, so you might as well leave them out. I would try to take a few of them down, because it looks like he has 8 of them up, which is, in my opinion, too much to handle. Oh, see there, he dropped to 300 health from, I'd have to check that, but that looked like a good, oh, it could have been a 3000 nuke or 2500 nuke from that Sludge Nova. I'd have to rewind it. But you see, that's the scary thing, is you can't really get that far away from Mendel in this fight. Otherwise, those Sludge Novas are just going to kill you. He doesn't have a warp. So you see here, he's stuck in a cage. He only got hit by 1, so it's just a normal damage of 1900, so it's not a big deal. But if you get hit by 2 of those projectiles, that's when you're in kind of big trouble, right? But the Void Knights are down again, so only 1 of them left. So I think he should just be able to focus down Mendel now. Yeah, and now it's just a matter of killing Rathma. And as we saw in phase 2, the Rathma portion is really the easiest portion for him, because he has so much minions to kind of tank the aggro for him. So Rathma's going to spawn his Void Knights 3 times again in this fight at certain intervals of damage, unless you burst him down quick enough that you can skip a phase, but not too many classes can do that. So it's just a matter of making sure you have your belt is full when you get to those intervals, to avoid the Void Knights coming out and you having an empty belt here. And the longer you take, the more Conjuring Souls he spawns, so kind of making sure to clear out those souls as quick as possible is another way to, or really another important thing you have to look out for in this fight. He had 3 there. You see there's another one on top and 1 in the middle, and he just killed the one on the right. So it's hard to really focus them down as summons, but I think You see here he spawned a bear on top of the one and he just walked away and fought Rathma instead. So you, you kind of don't have too much options here. You kind of have to do what you can. He scares me a little bit. I mean, he knows this fight on his Druid, but you know, only having 2 slots of his belt full at the moment, and this is a lull. It was near the end of the fight, so it's okay, but in general, I would try to keep that up. So let's take a look at his stats. So Death Hands is great because you have 75 PLR, Snow Clash for the cold, Water Walks, Poison Res, yeah, Mail, Spirit Keeper, that's great. PLR Ami, okay, CTA, yeah, with the, oh nice, he just has the ward on the side, and Themes, and pretty good lifer charms. So he has really good PLR, and he's using that Raven armor to get an additional max res. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So nice fight, Landis.
My favorite letter is F, y'all. More music and less talk. I'm talking about. You already know, man.
Come and play with us, Danny. Forever.